Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hollywood Critics Association after show for the after party. We are back to talk about this new show here, the first season on Apple TV Plus. Excited to jump in episode 5, High School. We're going 15 years back in time, and apparently everyone can get de-aged nowadays. We're on the cheap there. Apple has no problem spending that money. We get to see all these actors de-aged back in time in high school. A lot of fun to jump back into it. And so we're going to go around the table here, introduce ourselves, and then jump into the show. This is a spoiler review episode. So if you haven't seen episode 5, go and watch it, then come back and join us. I am the Outlaw John Rocha. You can find me at The Rocha Says and my YouTube channel, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. It is the Outlaw Nation. That is mine. Rick Hong. Oh, Rick, hello. Oh, his internet might be. I think your internet's a little frozen, Rick. Or is that you guys? I think we're a little bit frozen on Rick's internet. You might want to go back out and come back in, Rick. So let's go to Jana. Jana, what do you got? Where are you? Tell people where you're from.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Jana on Camera. My website is janaoncamera.com. I also have a YouTube channel, YouTube/Jana on Camera. So just find me there. And I also write for a Brazilian publication, and I also do collaborations with Mama Geeks.
Fair enough. And Adriana Bloom joining us. Adriana, please.
Hello. I'm Adriana Gomez-Weston. So you can find me on the thecinema-soloist.com and thecinema-soloist.org. And then I also do a lot of freelance work all over the place. And then you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Adriana and Bloom.
Okay. And Rick, this time, let's try one more time. Rick.
Let's do this again. I'm Rick Hong. You guys can find me on all social media at Rick Hong. And you can also follow me on HollywoodFirstLook.com as well for interviews for film and TV.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, Rick, your internet's a little choppy. You're going in and out. So I don't know what you can do to fix that, but it sounds like you're a little choppy right now. I don't know what the situation is, but we'll figure it out as we go along, hopefully. And we just lost Adriana as well, so we're already off.
Can you hear me?
Interesting start. Yeah.
Well,
Your camera's so maybe you're adjusting something there, Adriana. No problem. Well, let's go to Jana. So Jana, let's start it off here. This is episode 5 in the after party. We had episode 4 here last week. Got to know a little bit more about Chelsea's story and what she was going through, and her being. We got the independent horror film vibe from that episode 4, and we're like figuring, okay, so she thought she was chased down by Walt, the guy whose name no one can seem to remember. No one can seem to see who he is. And this episode here, High School, it is Walt who is telling the truth about everything that happened at this St. Patrick's Day party to Detective Danner, and kind of revealing all the secrets here. It's like this, it's almost like it's the midway point of the season, and we're finally getting all the truths that actually happened through the eyes of the one guy no one can seem to remember at high school. What do you think about this episode overall, Jana?
Yeah, I love it, and I have a lot of answers, and you can still see that Walt back then nobody ever know him, and he had hair, right?
Yeah.
So a little bit of hair, and I think that if he's telling the truth, he's all the answers that I was like, oh, freaking out to know. I was like so curious to know. I have some answers there, but I'm not sure he's telling the truth.
You're not sure he's telling the truth. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what about you? What about you, Rick? You look at this situation. We're seeing all the different storylines, everything playing out here. We're getting the possible actual truth here of what happened with Eugene and the name, and what happened here with Anik and his affections for Zoe, and what that was all about, and how Ike Barinholtz's character, how he kind of came in, swooped in, and took everything.
Brett. You're talking about Brett. Yep.
All of this happening here with them, and then now we're starting to see that maybe Nick does have a little bit of an anger towards towards his yeah. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name right now. Towards him,
Xavier or Eugene, because he has
or
two
Eugene, yeah,
names.
towards Xavier, right?
He's got two names, dude. It's hard to keep
I
track
know.
when you got Dave Franco, the actor, and then he's Eugene back then. He's
Right.
Xavier now. It's hard to keep track of this guy's name. So this is what I think. I love this episode. I love the episode, with Ben Schwartz's character, he asked for and stuff. It's all the rapping or whatever. But this episode is great because it's the high school episode. So we kind of get a real good look at possibly because you're not convinced if Walt actually went to high school there or not. But you get a good glimpse of who these people were before we jump into this murder mystery and who they are now. So it gives us a better idea of kind of the dynamic of who these people were versus who they are that we are experiencing at the party.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Adriana, what stood out to you? I mean, we like he was saying, we're finding out who these people are. Now, this is all through Walt's eyes, who ironically ends up almost buck naked by the end of the episode here. So it's almost like he is stripping away the truth, stripping away all the clothes, all the things that people are hiding behind, all the lies they're telling to end up just naked. It's almost symbolic in a way. What did you think about this whole episode and what it showed us about the storylines here and the characters that we've gotten to know over these first 4 episodes?
It really did piece together a lot of the mysteries that were going on. So I'd like that it did settle what happened between Xavier and Chelsea. So of course, we want to know why she was so upset about and trying to get revenge on him. So we see that, and we also see Anik's motive. And for me, I thought was the funniest. I have a hard time believing Dave Franco as a lame character, which I thought was kind of funny, the direction they went in, because he was, you can tell in real life he's one of the cool kids, but in this show they have him as a lame, and I thought it was really interesting how they have it that Jasper was the one kind of breaking up with him. I don't think us ska band's going to work. We're going our separate ways. Right. And I thought that was hilarious and how that goes. And now, Jasper is the one desperate trying to get, a song made and get his career off the ground. So I really liked how that was done. So I thought it was really funny to see that storyline. So it does really put a lot of things into place and kind of adds more to who did it, who really did it. So it gives more detail, but I still can't really exactly tell who it is at this point. I'm still thinking it's Walter at this point, but I'm not sure. So.
Tia Sakar tweeted about it and asking people who they thought it was a couple weeks ago. And I tweeted back at her and I said, I think it's Walter. It's absolutely Walter. No one can seem to remember this guy. Did he even go to this high school? And then we do see him, though, Jana. We see him. Like you said, he has more hair now. We can see him in that. And the thing is, you mentioned that, I don't know if he's telling the truth. But when he's done telling the story in front of everybody, nobody says, you're lying. It's not true. They accept it. The Chelsea Xavier thing gets exposed, and they accept that as truth. And then Zoe really has a strong reaction to Brett about how he kind of manipulated the situation to end up with her right under Anik's nose. So it seems to me like maybe he was telling the truth. And ironically, it's the guy who was sitting in the shadows stalking everybody and pretending like he's in on all the conversations when no one can even remember that he's in the room, who actually might have all this information. So what do you think about this?
Yeah.
John, go ahead. John, go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Jana.
Oh, sorry. I thought that I missed you guys. No. Yeah, I agree with you. Nobody complained, nobody contest him on the stories. So he might be telling the truth. And then I was because Zoe was she didn't have any motive to do anything to him. But she said, I didn't tell my story yet. And we spoke about this about her, a couple of I think on the first episode. Yeah, she might be something about her that we have there, but I don't know. Maybe it's Walt because he's very upset with those people. I don't know.
What surprised you most, Rick, about the revelations that we got here? What stood out for you that made you change your perception or idea about any of the characters here, as we've seen from the first 4 episodes, and now seeing the back, because we saw Anik a little bit more of a jerk than we thought, a little bit more of kind of obsessed with Zoe. I mean, staying so long to make a mixtape, that is out of control. But I remember those days. It's just like, it's way out there how much he was putting himself out. And then, of course, Brett sliding in and taking it from him. But then we're seeing also a little bit more here of Eugene and Xavier and his anger and his frustration and almost jealousy of Anik because he has a stronger relationship with Jasper and how that plays out. Plus the outfits. Oh, my God. So what did you think about all of this? Who stood out to you? What storyline really kind of, I guess, stood out to you and grabbed your attention overall?
You know, it was definitely the Eugene Xavier aspect of it because you get a real good in-depth of you. And we saw the hints of it in the Chelsea episode. Like every time, like that was like the only time where, like in episode 4 with Chelsea, you get a glimpse of him already reverting, like going back to his like who he was in high school. You see, we got glimpses of that. Now we get a really good idea of who he was. You know, the hair change, you know, calling himself Xavier. We get like the backstory about how he's like a rich kid, and you know, he doesn't get into Stanford. He's like on the wait list.
Right.
So like you get a good idea of like who he was. You know, like we understand it's like he was a real dork on some end, but towards like the end of the episode 2, we kind of start seeing the real Xavier persona as we know show up. Right. But in the beginning, it's just like I said, like those hints that we got in episode 4 show up to say like this is who he was. This is why he acts and behaves the way that he does. Right. So I mean, like I love like how. And the funny thing is that it's Dave Franco and he's talking about the hair. He's like saying it's not bleach, it's Chardonnay, and then he's got like the Aeropostale coat on. Yeah. And what I think is funny about that Aeropostale coat is Aeropostale was never cool, ever. It's not one of those things. It's not like Genera. Yeah. It's not like a Genera or something that shows up and it was cool for a little bit or whatever. It's just like Aeropostale. Like, I remember those stores and everything, but I was like, I don't remember anybody that ever owned any Aeropostale. So I think it's funny that he's wearing this coat. I'm like, man, even Aeropostale back then, it still wasn't cool. So.
Yeah, Adriana, Aeropostale wasn't cool. Neither were Mazdas or Fieros, whatever he's driving there. None of those were cool either. And vanity plates were never cool as well. So we're seeing this. We're seeing that he actually was this massive nerd who was kind of picked on and kind of overlooked in high school until he came out and had that moment, which is really uncomfortable to watch, especially, you know, address that, please. I mean, watching a guy claim that something happened in the room and trying to take credit for it and what that means. And all these years later, having that kind of be cleared up as well. So not feeling too cool about Xavier either coming out of this. Not a lot of people are looking good other than maybe Zoe coming out of this whole situation and Chelsea, who now seems to be like the kind of person who was kind of haunted by these lies that were told about her. And of course, her ending up in that situation with Brett that maybe affected the relationship with him and Zoe. So what do you think about all that they were showing you here about Xavier, the kind of backstory with what he was dealing with and then how he reacted to it? Adriana? No?
Oh, you want me to? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I thought it was really crappy of him to do. So I think he saw his opportunity to be cool and took it. And unfortunately, he brought Chelsea down in the process. Yeah. And it kind of sucks because it takes 2 to tango, technically, as a term. So, like, even though, like she said, like they were both in there, but they only attacked her, which I thought was really upsetting. Like, they didn't go, oh, why is he, like, he got, I guess, all the cool points. So that was kind of upsetting in that the fact that he just took this big secret with him for so many years and he remembered it, and so he was avoiding her. When he saw her, he was just like, oh, hey, Chelsea, and like try not to talk to her, and he knew what he did was wrong all that time. And I thought, you know, hey, and also with them showing, you know, they kind of hit on it like he's a white privileged rich kid, so especially in that point where they're arresting Anik and they're like, oh yeah, you're free to go, you're okay, and then he's like, oh, and he pretty much ruins his life almost in a way. So So Xavier does not look good. So there's plenty of people who actually have a reason to kill him, as sad as that sounds. Like they have genuine motive to want to be like have a grudge against him and like push him off a building. So
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
No, that's just what I was thinking about too. Is like it's interesting about this episode and that situation because it still plays out. You know, like right now, you know, they've got kind of like redid, like they're doing the scripted version of Pam and Tommy.
Right.
About the sex.
Oh yeah, right on Hulu.
Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee, and one of the scenes in that, you know, she talks about the double standard. Oh well, you're a guy, so it's cool for you, but I'm a woman, so this isn't cool for me. It's just like I'm a slut, I'm being shamed. And then at the same time, too, last week I think there was a Janet Jackson documentary, and she talks about the whole Super Bowl incident, and it's the same thing all over again too. It's like, you know, Justin Timberlake is there. He's just as much to like kind of being the weird controversy of I didn't think it was like blown way out of proportion in all areas or whatever, but she's the one that got the brunt of it. He didn't.
Right.
And in the show, it's the same thing. You know, it's like, yeah, it's, you know, Chelsea didn't do anything or whatever, but it's just the fact that, you know, he comes out first. Yeah. He comes out first, and it's another guy that's egging him on, saying, "Hey, so what happened, man? Did this thing happen?" And it's like, yeah, it happened. You know, so automatically it becomes truth.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, Jana, go ahead. Good.
No, and then she came. She was the popular girl.
Yeah. And
then suddenly she was like not popular anymore, and everybody was, I don't know, talking about her. So that's something that she mentioned on episode 4, that she was like, that was downhill for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it can happen, right? That quickly in high school, people's emotions are so like, you know, 1 minute you hear one thing, and then the next. And the thing is, I want to address this too. And Jana, I'll go back to you on this. The Jennifers and Ned. This is an interesting situation. You know, the Jennifers were Jennifer 1 and 2 were all about Chelsea until Chelsea possibly hooked up with Eugene / Xavier in that room. Possibly had a threesome with some guy they didn't know who was Walt. Some guy they didn't know possibly had this threesome. But now Ned, who had these feelings for Chelsea, and Xavier possibly having had this relationship with now Ned, who's been kind of quiet in the back here. Now Ned comes to the forefront as a possibility, don't you think?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, well,
and I agree with you.
Yeah. What do you think, Adriana?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I thought it shows how fickle people can be, because the Jennifers, even though they're like grown adults 15 years later, they're still being really fickle and acting like they're still in high school. And then Ned comes in, he's like, I'm happily married. I remember that part. He's like, oh, I'm fulfilled. You know, I'm okay. When he saw her, like the minute he saw her. So it's almost as if all these old feelings resurface, or they never really truly let them go. So I thought that was interesting. And yeah, I do agree with you that it does bring Ned to the forefront, because he's more like a side background character for the first couple episodes.
So far, yeah.
But this does also put him in the mix as like a possible suspect.
Yeah, Rick. I mean, he's the popular. Apparently, he's the popular kid in school, and he's the guy. You must know about that, Rick. You must be.
Yeah, right. You know, it's funny. I was thinking this. I was thinking about the timeline and everything else, and I was like, "Come on!" I was like, the Asian guy in high school was the popular guy. I was like, "No way!" Like, but the funny thing is too, is like all those characters as well. All those characters as well, though, like I wouldn't even look at any of them anyways being the popular person. Like none of them.
Fair point.
And you know, as we saw with like Ike as Brett, even he wasn't as much of a bully as we've seen him be in the present. You know, back then, he was just, you know, maybe a misfit, but not a bully.
Right.
I mean, you know, like whereas like when he shows up to at least the stories that we hear and everything too, and like even his version of the story, it's like you see like this alpha bully type guy, but back then that's not necessarily the case. And so, but it is interesting, right, that they sit there and say that, yeah, Ned's the cool guy, and he's got the longer hair, not the clean cut like husband haircut, and the fact that he had that he had the relationship with Chelsea first is like another whole like revelation of like, wow, all these guys, and it's high school too, but they're all incestuous.
Yeah. And they're the ones that showed up at Walt's party. Consequently, pretty much the same people that's showing up to this after party. So what's the connection here to that? Like who sent out the invites to this after party? Yeah, maybe Eugene or Xavier did, but what's the whole thing here? I wonder if he's trying to get final revenge on all of them in this situation to make them all be possible suspects in his murder because of what he went through that night and all the changes in his life. I mean, he enters that party as a complete nerd and comes out as this guy who just had a threesome with Chelsea and Walt and gets Anik arrested. So it's very interesting to see how he's complete, and the Chardonnay hair or whatever, but also seeing his car get destroyed by Anik. You know, Adriana, Anik bringing a lot of ferocity, that nerd rage, taking it out on the car. Anger that he can't be with Zoe, but we see some sweet moments between him and her with the cross doing the eyebrows on the glasses there in science class. That's very sweet. They both want to kind of meet up with each other at the party, and then when we come back to the present, she's legitimately moved by the fact that he cared about her, never told her, made the mix CD, and that Brett has lied about everything. So what do you feel about Anik now? He seemed like a really good protagonist, but after all of this and his anger and his rage, where do you see Anik in this whole equation?
I don't feel like he did it because he's too much of an obvious choice,
right?
Like based on what we've seen so far. But it does kind of taint his image a little bit. Because of course he's the first person we start out with this cute little rom-com story for his episode, and so we're genuinely rooting for him. We want him to get the girl. We want to emerge as like the cool guy over the night. But him like trashing the car, him like getting upset, that really does paint him in a negative light and kind of makes the question like, did he do it? And shows you what he's capable of. And it does. It is really sad what happened, but it makes you think, like, and if he finds out it's somebody else, like, how is his reaction going to be? Like, for instance, if Zoe did it, like, how would he behave or something like that?
Jana, talk to me. Do you start looking at Jasper a little bit now? Are we starting to look at Jasper? We saw Anik's rage. We saw his frustration, the pants getting pulled down, being pushed in the water, and then him saying, oh, it's happening again when we cut to the a little bit of the present day, seeing that his pants are down again and all of that, and he's wet again, feeling that. But Jasper seems to be around when all of this stuff is happening. Jasper's the one that kind of accidentally gave him the Xavier name, and he used that to become famous. And Jasper's the one who broke up. And he's like putting in people's audio equipment in their houses where Xavier's making millions of dollars. So I have this weird feeling that he's starting to slowly become the main suspect. What do you think about all this?
Yeah. No, me too. I agree with you. And right now I have two suspects, and one of them is Jasper, because he was on the top high school, but now he's in the bottom. So he can carry that thing, oh my God, like thinking he made it and I did it. You know what I mean? So he might be the biggest suspect right now. And another one is Zoe, because she just said, maybe you don't know my story yet. I didn't have a motive, but now I had it, and maybe that motive can kill Eugene. Xavier.
Maybe that comes.
The
next episode, which I think is animated, judging from the thumbnail we've seen on our screener. So I'm very curious to see what we're gonna. I haven't watched ahead, so I'm very curious to see that. Rick, who's coming to the forefront? Who's coming to the forefront for you? Is Jasper anywhere near the front? Do you think Jennifer too accidentally bumped into him and knocked him out the leg? Like, what do you think? Who's coming to the forefront for you? And what do you think about Jasper as a possibility?
Well, you asking. Well, first of all, I want to rewind just for a second off of Adriana. Like the thing that you were talking about her is that when we have the fight between the two guys, that's how a real fight happens. It's never choreographed. It's never cool. It's sloppy. It's messy. Yeah. It's unless one guy just jacks somebody. Usually, a fight usually looks like that. A real fight in real life, people are exhausted. It's sloppy. They actually don't really want to hit each other. They just want to look like they are, or like looks like like wait for something to happen. But it's interesting that you just asked Jana that question about Jasper, because now I'm thinking about it, and I never once thought about. Oh, really? Maybe, just maybe, like Eugene Xavier, maybe like he's got them all set up and he did it himself. Maybe he did it himself to make them all feel bad, or to even make Jasper feel bad.
Right.
You know, just because like, you know, it's like that whole thing with like a person that died, you know, it's like that they died too young, like a James Dean or like a Kurt Cobain. You know, it's like if you die too young and you're kind of on top, then you're always on top. You never see the Elvis Presley, you know, peanut butter banana years. You know, it's like the fat Elvis with like the dying jet black hair. Like you don't see that a version of a Kurt Cobain or unfortunately like a Chris Cornell or any of those type of guys. And so like I'm wondering now maybe if there's a piece of it, because you asked him about Jasper, I was just like, yeah, you know what? He felt a lot of pain from that breakup that we didn't know about. And so I could almost kind of see it. It's just like, you know what? Maybe I'll do it to myself, or something that we just haven't seen. And they keep, you know, they mentioned her 2 episodes ago, and they haven't touched on her, and she's shown up and she's in the background, like you kind of said about Ned. Jennifer too.
Yeah.
I like, you know, Jennifer too. I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, you guys are like, where did she go 2 episodes ago? And now it's 2 episodes later and we've seen her, but we haven't really explored what Jennifer 2 was doing, where she went or anything at the present. So I'm like, you know, maybe it's one of those 2 things now. It's either, you know, like, I don't want to necessarily go with the you know, Eugene Xavier doing it to himself, but the Jennifer 2 thing is really, really, really mysterious.
Has anyone checked if those are real baby bumps? I mean, I don't know if those are real baby bumps. Do we know are they actually pregnant? We don't know. Adriana,
and she's the one who also sent the text messages that they revealed, like, to Chelsea.
Right.
So she has that like vindictive streak.
Yeah. I could, because they've kind of kept her in the background. Jennifer 2 is starting to bubble up to the surface for me as well. I mean, the reason I think Jasper could do it was jealousy, but also because he actually really cares about Anik and the way Eugene and Xavier has treated him through the years and been mad at him and frustrated. Maybe there's a little bit of combo of both. But Jennifer 2, that could be real interesting. Where she whips out the baby bump, it's not real, and she's actually killed him. For whatever reason that she's got in her head. It could be very interesting. We're not that far away. We're only 2 or 3 episodes away from this thing ending. So it'll be fast, or I think 4. I think maybe we're going to be fascinating to see as we go into the back half of the season who starts to crystallize as the killer. What about that fight there, Jana? Have you been in any fights like that? Have you been in any dance fights? Have you been in a dance fight in high school there in Brazil?
Yeah, yes, I saw that. Yeah, it was funny. It was really funny. So it's amazing. I like it. So I never did myself like any fights like that. I was very not shy, quiet, but I saw people like fighting with that. Yeah. It was fun.
Jana, you just seem too sweet to have like to have anyone try to engage in an airplane twirl slap fight with you.
I was the one that was beat up. No. I was beat up until I was 15 years old. I was the one that was always getting beat up. But I used to hate to get in fights. When I was in high school, this was the move. You go up to the guy and you put your chin on his, and then you go around in circles, threatening to punch the first guy. Threatening to punch. There's terrible fights back in the 1980s. They were ridiculous. And then when the fight did happen, it's exactly what. But I loved the commentary throughout from everybody, especially from Brett, who's like, "Are they gonna fight? Just hit somebody. Just hit somebody." And Porter's always like, no. And then he's like, "Are you guys dancing? Are you guys fighting?" Jasper's like, "I don't know what's going on. What are you guys doing?" So all of it worked well. Were you surprised that he pressed charges on Anik, in this, because it cost him his scholarship? So you see, there's a lot of anger here. Were you guys surprised by that at all, Rick?
No, well, it's a little 50-50. No, because like in my heart, I wanted to say, come on, dude, just let it go.
Right.
But at the same time, too, it's that whole thing, like the police show up. And it's just like, oh yeah, dude. Oh, who's your dad? Oh yeah, your dad's cool. And then Anik's just like, well, my dad does this, and they're like, we don't care about you. Right. It's what's cool about Chris, just kind of touching on, or like Lord and Miller too, just touching on like just the slight, social areas of like the world of like saying, it's like, it's just like he's black.
Right.
He's black, so it's just like immediately like the police show up, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, the white dude, we're cool. We're kind of cool with the white dude. It's okay. We'll give you a little slap on the wrist, but the black guy, and then of course it's like, in that situation, it's just kind of like, yeah, let's just blame the black guy and let's just kind of, and like, let's, yeah, like whether it's going to ruin his life or not, let's just go all the way.
Yeah,
because that's what happens in society sometimes. It's just like we don't think of like they talk about it. Like how many people like are in prisons and stuff, and like they're not even supposed to be there.
Right. Well, it's also interesting too, Adriana, when you look at it, because you've got maybe because he's black, he got into Stanford, got that scholarship shot, but then also on the other side, because he's black, the police immediately show up when a black man is causing any kind of damage, or and they arrest him over the white guy. It's an interesting commentary on how that works and how certain segments of society approach it versus other segments of society, don't you think, Adriana?
All right, so sorry, I have noise going on in the background, so I apologize.
Yeah.
So I had to mute myself for a moment.
Oh, there we go. All right. Well, Jana, what do you think? Do you think that this is an interesting statement about that, the comparing both situations there? Huh?
No, I think I agree with Rick. I think they what they are doing, they are showing like exactly what happens to them, unfortunately, and show exactly what's. I think at that moment Xavier become the real Xavier. That Eugene,
right at the end.
Eugene just died that moment. Yes, press. He said something Xavier beach. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
And then I think at that moment Xavier was born, and then he just set up with Anik's life, and unfortunately it's like that. Because he's like a white guy, privileged, could do whatever he wants.
Yeah. Adriana, can you comment on that, or are you good?
Oh, can you go back to the question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. No, I was asking, like, isn't it interesting how like they showed you in one side of the fence, like because he's black, it might have helped him get into Stanford, but then on the other side, because he's black, the police came and arrested him over the white guy whose daddy like gives them free coffee on Fridays. And the possibility of what that might mean is a statement they might be making about society and how it treats black people in certain situations, or people of color, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. And I also feel like Xavier did it because maybe he was jealous as well. Yeah, I'm sorry. So he was jealous as well, because I remember in the beginning he's like, "Oh yeah, you got in because the affirmative action or whatever he said." So like it seemed like Xavier was like, "Oh yeah, I got into the wait list at Stanford." So I feel like there was kind of like a resentment already there, and also because he was Anik was better friends with Xavier. I mean, not Xavier, Jasper. So there was that too. So I think he also was kind of also trying to like rub salt in the wound, as well as them kind of making a statement about Anik being black, which they don't really touch on too much until this very episode. It's kind of like more like but yeah,
good point. A privileged white kid like using his powers and then letting his jealousy get the best of him because he thinks that the only reason he got into Stanford was because he's black, instead of the fact that he might have earned it. Yeah, it's a great point. Absolutely. Well, Detective Danner got a call here, Rick. What do we think about this call? I mean, the time is running out. She's got to get to the answers here. Also, how come have we seen any uniformed police cops roaming around? I haven't seen many uniformed police. It's just those two kind of asking all the questions. The two detectives seems odd to me. So what do you think about this?
And what means that she's got something to prove or something, she's trying to be like the super sleuth.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I look at it as kind of like a Inspector Clouseau type situation. You got the person there that's just kind of like the whack out, investigator, whatever. And so like that's kind of like her thing, just coming down like all these theories. It's like she can't be as smooth as like, I don't know the character's name, Ken Branagh's character in Death on the Nile, and he's like, she can't be that smooth.
Can't be Poirot.
So she's doing like every little thing that she can to try to figure out. It's like, I know I can solve this. Like, I'm surrounded by a bunch of misfits and a bunch of crazy stories that don't make any sense, especially how this guy dies. But I'm gonna try to solve it. So
yeah. Yeah, and Jana, we find out that the lyrics, that the paper that they taped together with the Band-Aid was just lyrics to a song. So that kind of undercuts Anik's possible guess here of what was going on, of who the killer might be. So that kind of gets shoved aside here. Did you like how they handled that as a revelation? And what do you think's happening with Detective Danner here overall? Because she got that call.
Yeah, I think she's have to prove something to someone, to this boss of her.
Yeah.
But I think she's not supposed to be there.
Right.
But she wants us to solve the case as soon as she can. That's why she's like interviewing. She wants to know what's going on, and she might gonna ask, oh, maybe I thought something, maybe this person that is coming in the morning, maybe someone that she used to date her, or
maybe
was in love with this person. I don't know. Maybe there's something about her past with this person that is coming over. I don't know. It's so weird.
Okay.
And I agree with you. There's not much policemen there. There's no police there.
It seems odd to me to be able to keep all those people there without police. Adriana, what do you think's going on with what's your guess on Detective Danner? Like, is the person coming an old flame of hers, or maybe an old boss of hers? Or is that person, did he get promoted over her? So there's this desire to really prove what she knows and that she can handle this case. What do you think?
So I think we've seen this trope in a lot of like mystery shows. You have like this rookie detective who's trying to prove themselves. So I feel like that's kind of the case with her. She's probably a little more junior and trying to get points, whoever's senior above her. So, and also I don't know like police protocol. So I thought it was weird they're keeping everybody at the house, even though she says that there's too many people to bring to the police station. But I thought like with something like that, aren't you supposed to remove everybody from the crime scene? And like, even though the house is huge, isn't that like the whole thing of crime scene? So shouldn't you remove everybody? So that's what I was, she doesn't seem to want to go to the police station. And I can't remember the other detective's name. They keep going back and forth, and he keeps writing, I'm going to call, I'm going to call.
Culp, I think.
So that neither one of them is supposed to be there. Oh, what'd you say?
I think it was Culp, C-U-L-P. I think it's Culp.
Yeah, but yeah, like neither one of them is supposed to be there, and they keep threatening, like, we're going to call. And also like her promising off like parts of his belongings, like, oh, you can have some of this stuff. Like, you're not supposed to do that. For sure they're not supposed to be there.
All right, well, let's wrap up by talking about Walt. Walt was such an interesting character in this entire episode, and perfect for the after show to ignore Walt until the end. But yeah, Walt was so interesting because obviously, like I said at the beginning, he's like telling the story, wants to tell his story, and we see him after the Chelsea episode where he's kind of followed her to try to give her keys back. Now we see Walt here trying to really kind of stake his claim that he's someone you need to remember. He's someone whose name you need to remember, but he's always felt passed over, yet they're having the party at his house without them knowing they're having the party at his house. And he keeps following everyone he's essentially a stalker here, Rick, going room to room to room. He even pretends like he's in the conversations, even though they're not talking to him, and he says goodbye when he leaves the room, and no one's even remotely considering him. And then he ends up naked by the end in a robe. What was that all about? What's your thoughts on Walt now from in high school and then all the way up until the present when we go back after his flashback?
Well, John, you mean Malt, right?
Yeah.
Malt. I mean, not Walt, but maybe he's really Malt. It's interesting because like I was watching it, and I was like, I was referring like, last week I was referring to like your theory because like I love it. I love how you're sitting there saying, did this guy even go to their high school? And like I think every time like in this episode, people kept saying, it's like Brett's uncle or something like that. It's like someone's uncle's house or whatever. So yeah, maybe he's the guy. Like maybe he's just like. Like he's maybe he went to a rival high school or something, and he legitimately was at that party. Yeah. He legitimately was at that party. Nobody remembers him, but maybe like he didn't go to that particular school. Maybe he went to a different school, and that's how he gets wind of like the whatever and just shows up to the reunion. Well, so it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but it's interesting too that how his story, as he lays out everything, there is no bias.
Right.
There is no bias. Like everybody remembers that, like you were talking about earlier, like everybody remembers that story the same way. So it's like, so I don't know if it leaves him as he's a mysterious character, but I don't know for me if it leaves me to think that he's the actual suspect anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, what's the connection here? Brett's uncle's place, isn't that right? Brett's like, is he is he cousins with Brett? Like, if it's Brett's uncle's place, but Walt claims that it's his place too, is he cousins with Brett? I don't know the connection.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking, kind of crazily. And also this idea, and you bring up an interesting point, right? Because we do see him at the high school. He's outside when they're having food and whatever. So is he just kind of randomly going to this high school, but actually doesn't attend the high school? That could be interesting because he wants to be part of this whole group of people. That could be very interesting as well. So what do you think about that, Jana, with Walt? Yeah, I think we're losing.
Yeah, they might be cousins. They have the same haircut or something, and I don't know. I think they are. It's weird that their relationship, and also all the story. Nobody contests the stories, but the characters, like the personalities, are from Walt's perspective. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why Brent is not that mean, because they're cousins. I don't know. Yeah. Just thinking.
Awesome. What do you think, Adriana? What do we do with Walt now? I mean, what's our thoughts on Walt now? Do you think he never went to this high school? Do you think he did, but he's just one of these guys people forgot about?
Guys, the internet is horrible.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Adriana, what do you think's going on here with Walt now after the end of this episode?
I still kind of feel he's a suspect because he seemed to be too eager to tell his story. Like, this is my time to tell my story. And like, this is my time. You're going to listen. So I feel like almost either if it was on accident or on purpose, he killed Xavier, because maybe this could be the one chance he actually gets attention and people know who he is. Like, that's the only reason I can think of him as doing it. But as far as like him being not being a student, that does make sense. Like, it's like one of those Mean Girls situation where he doesn't even go here, but he's just there. Like, part of the drama and just taking up space. But I still kind of feel like he's a suspect in my mind. He's just like, he's almost perfect because he's like invisible to everyone. And so they never would think it's him, or they forget like immediately.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah, we got we got 3 episodes after this one, so we're definitely rounding the corner to find out who did this. But I have to give a shout out to Nicole Delaney, who wrote this episode with Miller, with Christopher Miller as well. So I loved the writing in this episode, enjoyed it. So far, neither one of these episodes have disappointed. Did I like the Chloe one? It was okay, but that was in my opinion, that was the weakest one of the first 5 so far. And I like that we've got to see now some answers, possibly through Walt's eyes, and got a little more fleshing out of these relationships that have been carrying on all these years later. The judgment, the derision, the support, the anger, the frustration, getting all of that out now. Because that's why you go to a high school reunion, is to get the truth, to get all the truth here about what really happened back then. So I like that we're kind of now we have all of us have pretty much a level playing field, that we understand everyone's motivations now for real. And now we go into the next 3 episodes seeing everything through that prism, which I think is a gift for sure. Any final words on this episode? Are we good? Did we miss anything that you guys want to talk about? Anybody want to chime in?
I thought it was a fun episode. I thought it was a fun episode, and like it's the title is interesting because each episode has a person's name, but just to be funny again, this episode, high school, it's not Walt.
Right.
That's so again, it's like another diss to the character.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final words, Adriana, Jana? Anything to add?
Nobody remembers him.
Right, exactly.
No, I just really enjoyed the episode, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, ditto. Jana, anything? You good?
Yeah, same here. Same here.
Okay, all right. There you go. That's our spoiler review here for episode 5, High School of the After Party. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Hollywood Critics Association YouTube page for this. We'll be doing one every week as we wrap up, and certainly that season finale is going to be a big deal. We'll see if we'll go live for that one instead of just doing them pre-recorded. It'll be a lot of fun to see how many people join us if we do go live to talk about it, and how many people were right and how people were wrong about who the killer was of poor. Well, not that poor. Xavier, Eugene, for sure. We shall see. Rick, please, thanks so much. Tell people where they can find you, my man.
You guys can find me on all social media at Rick Hong and also HollywoodFirstLook.com. I just got done doing an interview with some of the cast members of All of Us Are Dead. It's been trending like 1, 2, and 3 on Netflix. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. I'll let you know when it drops.
Right on. Adriana, where can they find you and everything that's going on?
So right now I'm just working on updating my site, thecinemasoloist.org. Trying to get more things in the pipeline, hopefully get my camera and stuff fixed and all other things. That's just some general stuff because I just noticed I'm like not as high res as you guys. So, but and also you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Adriana and Bloom.
Right on. All right, and Jana.
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Jana on Camera, and my YouTube channel, Jana on Camera. And that's it because chat is so bad today.
Okay.
Apologies for that.
No problem. An Ethernet cord is what I recommend to everybody.
True.
It makes the difference. That's what I use. You guys can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Head over to my YouTube channel, The Outlaw Nation, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. And hey, if you're on Twitch, head on over to the Outlaw Nation, all one word. I do watch-alongs of movies and sports stuff, and this weekend I'll do a watch-along of the Super Bowl. So if you want to hang out with a bunch of people I know on Twitch and watch the Super Bowl, hang out with me there on Twitch. All right, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well. Thank you to the Hollywood Critics Association. Make sure you subscribe down below and hit that bell button so when you're dropping, so you can see when we're dropping all the content we got. Take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next time with a brand new episode here on the Hollywood Critics Association for the after show of the After Party. Bye.